Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're going to be doing my top 10 cards from Primal Clash. We have done a full set review, but that is kind of long, so if you want just a short punchy top 10, one of the best cards coming out of this set, have a look at this and I hope you all enjoy it. Bear in mind this is my own personal top 10, so if you have any challenges or have your own top 10, stick it down in the comments below. I would really like to see it. I'm happy to discuss any questions or queries, why this wasn't on here, why is that so high up or low down, etc. Get talking, it'll be perfect. So here we go. Starting off with an honourable mention, it's always a sneaky way of getting an 11th card in there for a top 10 list. And for us, we're going for Mega Gardevoir EX. It's got 210 HP, which is low for a Mega, but still higher than every other EX that we have right now. So that's still good. And if you think about Aromatisse, they love keeping all the energy on board and not letting anything get knocked out. A Mega Gardevoir EX is going to be a new way of keeping all your energy on board by bringing up this guy. His weakness is Metal, which is kind of awkward now that we're going to see Aggron see some more play. We'll see him later on in the list. Resistance to Dark is really good because Yveltal is around at the moment. And his Brilliant Arrow attack, or her Brilliant Arrow attack I should say, does 30 times the amount of fairy energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So with the non-EX Xerneas charging up with Geomancy and manual attachments for the turn, and of course Rainbow Energy can count for fairies when you use Brilliant Arrow, we can rack up a lot of damage with this to bring out some OKO potential with Mega Gardevoir EX, which is absolutely fantastic. Brilliant Arrow can do a lot of damage, and the fact that it's all of your Pokemon as well, you don't have to put it all onto your active Pokemon where it could potentially all be lost if you were to get knocked out. Brilliant Arrow allows you to spread the damage around your entire board to attack with anything next turn, even if Mega Gardevoir was KO'd. But of course, Mega Gardevoir is decent because we do have the Aromatisse engine and stuff like that to move around energy for whenever you need it. It could even be a late game finisher for Aromatisse, so that's something to look out for. The reason why I don't have it in the actual top 10 itself, 210 HP is not the highest for a Mega. We're going to see some much better Megas coming up. And also the fact that it is weak to Metal. Metal's going to be popular, and Metal has massive OKO potential and will just eat up Gardevoir, in my opinion. So on to number 10. We have Archie's Ace in the Hole and Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick. Two supporters, I've lumped them together because Archie's does the same thing that Maxie does, it's just Archie does water Pokemon, Maxie does fighting Pokemon. And basically you put either a water or a fighting Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench and then draw up to 5 cards. It sounds amazing, but then you have to read the fact that you can only play this card when it's the last card in your hand. There's a lot of things that can benefit from Archie's and Maxies. I talk about it in depth in the full set review. Actually, it's in the trainer section, so the part 1 of that video if you want to see that. And the issue is, like I said at the time, getting these guys out consistently is kind of a challenge right now, which is why they're only at number 10. They have massive potential, and maybe in a set or two's time, when we have better cards to support these trainers, supporters, where we can actually lower our hand down more efficiently or consecutively, these guys are going to be stronger. But for now, they're at number 10 just for the massive potential that they have, because they can grab stage 1s, 2s, Mega EXs from the bench, from the discard pile, and put them straight onto the bench. And of course, we've seen very powerful stage 1s, 2s, and stuff like that. The issue being that they can't get brought out onto the field consistently. These guys can figure that out sometimes. On to number 9, we have Excadrill. 110 HP, metal type Pokemon, so he again could be useful against Mega Gardevoir. And he has the Barrage ability, which means he can attack twice in a turn, which is absolutely fantastic. So we can use both of these attacks that you'll see here twice in a turn, so bear that in mind. So the first one for just a colourless energy is Dredge. You get to search your deck for 2 energy and attach them to this Pokemon. And yep, you read that right, it doesn't have to be basic energy, it could be any energy you like. Special metals, or the new one I should say, it's called a shield energy I believe. There's rainbow energies, there's DCEs. If you want to put 9 energy on an Excadrill, you can, because you can dredge 4 DCEs onto yourself. That is fantastic. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. But just the thought of attaching 9 energy in a turn, that's pretty cool. We have Mat Claw. We can do 50 damage, not affected by resistance for a DC and a metal energy. Of course, Excadrill's not an EX, so he can use Silver Bangle. We obviously have Muscle Band as well that he can benefit from. So that can go up to 180. We obviously have lasers and stuff to push that into the 200s, which is incredible. Good output. He can set himself up with energy if you're tight for energy. Also, the fact that he's a metal type means that we can use Bronzong to help us set up these Excadrills without having to use Dredge. So there's a lot going for Excadrill right now, and that's why he's in at number 8. The issues being only 110 HP. Mat Claw, even though it can hit 160, that's not really enough to get the OKOs without the laser. So the math isn't perfect, but I can see it working sometimes. In at number 8, we have Rough Seas. Once during each player's turn, you may heal 30 from his or her water and lightning Pokemon. This is incredible. Such a good way to heal up water and lightning types. We see Mega Manectric. That's a good card. I've played it with Zapdos and stuff. Having Rough Seas could help us tank a lot better. At the moment, I play 2 Jinx in there. So Rough Seas is obviously going to dominate that. We're going to see a Primal Kyogre momentarily that has 240 HP, and having Rough Seas to help it heal means it's very difficult to knock out these guys unless you're doing actual OKO damage. So 2-shotting's not very easy. If like traditional numbers that hit like 100 or 90 a turn just isn't good enough anymore, Rough Seas can help us heal that sort of damage off. And it's just a good counter stadium as well. If you want to get rid of someone's fighting stadium or a Verbank City Gym, you may as well throw in Rough Seas to your water and lightning decks because they serve that purpose and also give you a free potion. So that's pretty cool. In at number 7, we have Primal Groudon EX, the first Primal that we're going to see here. 240 HP, fighting type. He has Omega Barrier. Whenever your opponent plays a trainer card, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon, excluding tools and stadiums. So he can be head-ringered, but everything else, think about lasers, enhanced and crushing hammers, none of these things can affect Groudon. He can't be Lysandered either. So Groudon's very safe as soon as he's put onto the field, as soon as he's got into his primal form. He's safe from all of these nasty things. His attack, Gaia Volcano, is absolutely huge as well. 100 damage plus 100 more if you have a stadium in play, or if there is any stadium in play. It doesn't have to be your own one. And then you discard it after you've done the extra 100 damage. So hitting 200 is absolutely insane, knocking out every EX that's not Mega or Primal. And then you consider the fact that we can have Muscle Bands, we can have Fighting Stadium, which adds 20. We have Strong Energy as well, because Groudon's a fighting type. So all of these things means that Gaia Volcano is most likely going to be one-shotting everything in the format right now, if you have all these toys out for Groudon EX. So he's a massive, huge hitter, 240 HP. The issue is Gaia Volcano is quite an expensive attack, and fighting types don't have that great energy acceleration in the format right now. I think the non-EX Landorus is probably our best means of accelerating energy onto Groudon, so it's really putting all your eggs into one basket and hoping that Groudon can not get OKO'd. That would be the main strategy for a fighting type deck. Potentially you could put a thin line of him. At the moment, I've played Landorus and Lucario. I've shown off that list, and potentially maybe a 2-2 Groudon EX line in there, and then you just scramble switch on one of your key turns to get a Groudon out of nowhere. That could be absolutely devastating. But overall, as his own deck, I don't see it working out too great because he's just too expensive to get multiples out of him. Also, he has Grass Weakness, and we know Virgin is going to be strong in this format because there's another card. Kyogre also has Grass Weakness. So Groudon may struggle in that matchup in particular. On to number 6, we have the Ball searching cards. Repeat Ball lets you search your deck for one Pokemon with the same name as one of your others in play. So you're thinking, why would I want to do this? Most of the time we're using Ultra Ball to grab a new card. Well, Repeat Ball has this niche use in decks like Zubat, Golbat and Crobat. Something where you want to spread your entire bench full of these things and get them all out at once. Repeat Ball would be useful in the beginning when you have just one Zubat in play. In the mid game when you're getting multiple Golbats, and in the late game when you're finally moving up to those Crobats, Repeat Ball is amazing throughout. So I can see this being played in those sorts of decks. Again, it's niche, but it's just so amazing for that deck. Also, we have the new Crawdaunt, which can get rid of energy on your opponent's active Pokemon when he evolves. So if you get a couple of those out and use Repeat Ball to help you search out your core efficient Crawdaunt, that could be absolutely devastating, and I can see that being comboed in a Seismitoad deck. And then to the right of it we have Dive Ball. Search your deck for a water Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. This is again an excellent card. It's niche as well, but it's pretty much a free Ultra Ball to water types, and it could spell the revival for some Stage 2 water type Pokemon such as Blastoise with his Deluge ability, which we know is just so strong. Obviously there's Empoleon as well, Diving Draw, a good ability, and we can attack for just 1 energy, so he's a good option. So having these dive balls can help us get out these stage 2s and stage 1s, which perhaps is otherwise a bit too clunky for other decks right now. Because we have dive ball for water, we can play like 7 or 8 ball cards in our deck to help us get out these stage 1 and 2 lines a lot more consistently than other decks right now. Also, of course, throw him in a 1 or 2 of instead of Ultra Ball to help you not discard your hand. It means you can just play it even if you've been end or something. So it's good even if you're not playing these stage 1 or 2 decks. If you're just playing water and you want to get out a Primal Kyogre or something, Dive Ball is going to be an excellent solution to that. The only issue is, would you play Dive Ball completely over Ultra Ball if you're wanting to play sort of one of techs like a Mr. Mime or something? Dive Ball's not going to be the be all and end all. You just ultimately take out all your Ultra Balls straight away. It would have to be a split of Ultra and Dive Ball in those water decks, but they're still 2 strong cards right there. On to number 5, we have Swampert, another water Pokemon that could benefit from Dive Ball. He also has Acrobike, which I'll get into in a second here. You can see it on the right. It's not good enough to make the top 10 on its own merits, but it does combo nicely with Swampert. First of all, though, Swampert has 140 HP, which is decent for a Stage 2. Alpha Growth as well. When you attach a energy card from your hand to this Pokemon, just for your attachment for the turn, it can't be via an attack ability or trainer, but you may attach 2 energy cards. So Swampert has inbuilt energy acceleration, which is fantastic. Cards like this often see play. He also has an ability on top of that, Diving Search. Once during a turn, you may search your deck for a card, shuffle your deck, and then put that card that you chose back on top. So it's either your next draw, or you can use Acrobike, which we can see on the right here, which allows you to look at the top 2, choose one, and discard the other. So Swampert with Acrobike combined gives you pretty much a computer search effect where you can find anything from the deck and put it into your hand. So that's fantastic. He could be seen as simply a Diving Search card to help your consistency in other decks, just a bench supporter. But also we might potentially see him as his own deck, because Hydro Pump isn't a half bad attack either. It does 40 damage plus 30 more for each water energy attached to this Pokemon, so it can rack up pretty high. It's similar to Keldeo, so he can do good 2 shots on EXs and stuff. So it's a pretty cute card. It's got a lot going for him. Alpha Growth, an ability, and a decent attack as well. I can see Swampert seeing some play here and there. Maybe as an attacker, maybe as just a bench supporter, but either way, we're going to see Swampert on some of these tables. In at number 4, we have Weakness Policy, a fantastic item card, and Seismitoad players, you can rejoice, you can be safe again, because no longer do we have to suffer at the hands of Rizian Genesect, because Weakness Policy reads, this Pokemon, the Pokemon this card is attached to, sorry, has no weakness. So even though we're doing no damage to a Virgin player, at least they're not OKOing Seismitoad straight off the bat. So Weakness Policy provides good support for Seismitoad, especially because opponents can't use stuff like Megaphone to get rid of Weakness Policy. So Seismitoad's always going to be healthy against Virgin now, which is a really good introduction, and I think Seismitoad ultimately really needed this card. Also, the fact that we can do it on any card, really. Anything that's wanting to tank, think about these fairy decks that like to tank and not get OKO'd. Weakness Policy could be a great inclusion in there to help you stay alive with all your Pokemon. So it's going to be a very strong card, not just for Seismitoad, although I can see that as the primary focus. It could be splashed into a couple of other decks. I can imagine the fact that we're going to be playing lots of Spirit Link cards for our primals. It looks to me like people are going to start playing Tool Retriever more often to move tools off of our own things. So potentially weakness policy could be a one-of in some decks just to help you cover your bad matchups. In at number 3, we have Aggron EX and Mega Aggron EX. And this guy is an absolute monster. He can hit so hard and he has so much HP. And he can even reduce damage as well because we have the new shield energy. Let me talk a little bit about him. He's got 240 HP and his attack Megaton Slam for a DCE and 2 metal energies does 120 damage. That sounds pretty normal, but then you flip a coin. If heads, it does 120 more, so that's a total of 240, which knocks out everything in format other than a Whale Lord EX, I imagine. Obviously not taking into account stuff like Hard Charm or anything. But if tails, you do 20 to each of your benched Pokemon. Of course, we can play a Mr. Mime to mitigate that damage. Also, it's likely that we're going to be playing stuff like Trick Coin or Victini on the bench to help you get a 75% chance of doing 240, which doesn't sound too bad to me. Also, he has a resistance to Psychic, which is kind of useful if Crobat Wobbuffet's going to be around and stuff like that. Mewtwo's obviously always present, so these are good things to have. Also, like I say, we've got Shield Energy. We've also got Bronzong to help accelerate Mega Aggron. We've got other metal type attackers which can help out in your deck, like Aegislash, Cobalion EX, even Dialga EX. These can all be useful 1 or 2 ofs in a metal deck to make it very, very powerful. It's just Mega Aggron is likely going to be the front runner in terms of your main attacker these days. Aggron EX as well, he's not too shabby either. He's got 180 HP. He's got Steel Headbutt for his first attack, which does 50 plus 30 more if you flip a coin and it's heads. And that's a cost of DC and a metal. And then you have Raging Hammer, which does 60 plus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon for the same cost as Megaton Slam, 2 metals and 2 colourless energies. So it's pretty strong. I can see it working well in the early turns. If you start absorbing damage with an Aggron in the active slot, you don't even have to Mega up. You can just do a big old Raging Hammer like an Outrager sort of would do. But because we have Bronzong to accelerate, it's going to be much more easy to get that out. So I really like these guys. Powerhouses, we've got Bronzong support, a lot of good stuff. And I can see this hitting the top tables very soon. In at number 2, we have Primal Kyogre EX. Another one of these really strong water Pokemon that we're seeing. Water got a lot of support with Swampert, this guy, and Dive Ball. Also Rough Seas. So let me talk about Primal Kyogre now. 240 HP. He too, like Swampert, has the Alpha Growth ability, so you can attach 2 energy a turn to Primal Kyogre from the hand. And his attack is Tidal Storm, 150 damage, and you get to move 2 from the Primal Kyogre, 2 energies, to one of your bench Pokemon, which is amazing. It helps you retain energy on your board, much like a Yveltal's Y-Cyclone does. You get to keep stuff for next turn, so that even if you're end, you have energy to play with, and you have attackers waiting on the bench. But not only that, we do 30 damage to each of your opponent's benched EX Pokemon. This is fantastic as well, because it sets up future Tidal Storms, potentially if you were to Lysander something the following turn, and you can Tidal Storm for another 150, remembering that we sniped the turn before to hit 180, which is a magic number on all EXs that haven't Mega Evolved. And if we hit the active as well last turn for 150, we can take 4 prizes in 2 turns. It's like a Night Spear on steroids, if I'm honest. Tidal Storm, an amazing attack. Absolute threat. And Primal Kyogre, it's huge HP, going to be difficult to take down. An issue is, though, it does have a grass weakness, and Virizion Genesect's already popular, so we can see that sprouting up in play if Primal Kyogre gets too big. We do, of course, have weakness policy to keep that in check. There's also a new Bouffalant coming out that could potentially be a splashable card in Primal Kyogre because he attacks with colourless energy. And because we move 2 to the bench, it means that we can set up a Bouffalant quite easily. So I'm not too worried about the grass weakness on Primal Kyogre from what I've playtested so far. And he hits like an absolute truck, let me tell you. And that snipe damage is very dangerous as well if your opponent doesn't play Mr. Mime, or if you can deal with the Mime early on. So Primal Kyogre, exceptionally strong card, built-in energy acceleration, huge attack. There's just nothing this guy can't do, really. So that is our number 2, and you're thinking, what could be at number 1? What is stronger than Primal Kyogre? And, well, no Pokemon in the set. It's actually a supporter card, and it's Teammates. This was the easiest decision of my top 10, if I'm honest, putting this at number 1. You can play this card only if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. I mention this because it has to be your opponent's last turn. It can't be in between turns, so if you do die to a Hypnotoxic Laser, or just poison or burn damage or whatever it is, you can't use Teammates that turn. But if you lose a Pokemon, you get to search your deck for 2 cards and put them into your hand. It's that simple. It's a double computer search for free. We've seen this in the past with Twins, and that was an absolutely exceptional card. It helped set up decks so much back in the day. It meant that you can play early game starters such as the Den, just sack them off in the early game, and then Teammates to grab yourself your stage 2 and your rare candy, or your DCE and your muscle band, whatever you need to respond in the situation. Teammates can just go ahead and grab you it. It's such a fantastic card. It's going to really help out stage 1 and 2 non-EX decks, in my opinion, because you can use Teammates up to 5 times in a game, considering VS Seekers and stuff like that, if you just take 1 prize knockouts, or if your opponent only takes 1 prize knockouts. So it's going to be a really, really strong card. And if you think about decks like Flareon, they're always searching for just a DCE and maybe a Battle Compressor or a Silver Bangle or your attacker for the turn. Teammates can really help this out a lot. And also there's stuff like Stage 2s, of course, where you can grab your candy and your evolution. It just really is a problem solver for these decks that really aren't that consistent right now. Finally, Teammates provides a great supporter option for these decks. Not only that, it can be played as a one-of in every single deck, because of course you're going to lose Pokemon throughout your games, most likely. And if you play Teammates as a one-of, with the amount of VS Seeker being played right now, most decks having 2, 3, sometimes even 4, whenever you lose a Pokemon, you can look for that VS Seeker Teammates combo and grab 2 cards that you want from your deck. It's that simple. Teammates is such a strong card, and it's by far my favourite card in the set. So that is my top 10, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I explained all the cards well enough and gave you something to think about here. Like I say at the start, if there's something I missed, maybe one of these cards you thought should have entered the top 10, maybe there's some other cards that you might have thought would have made the top 10 list. Discuss it down below. I'd love to talk about it. For now, that's the top 10, and I've been Joe from OmniPoke. See you next time.